Shalom, everybody, and good morning. Rabbi Edelstein here with this week's installment of Rabbi Ian 3, brought to you as always by MEOR DC. I'm sorry I missed last week, but I feel great. Back on track now, and I'm outside on a beautiful morning, and it feels great. I wanted to film outside because the air is cool. There's a beautiful breeze. Some of the leaves are starting to change. Fall is in the air, of course. School's back in session. Rosh Hashanah is coming up, and we'll talk about that. It's only 3 weeks away, so I feel invigorated. And two quick public service announcements tonight at 7:30, Marvin Center, room 310. Mrs. E and I will be down on GW's campus for a beautiful Shabbos dinner. Please join us next Wednesday, September 11th, 6:30. Open house info session about the Maimonides Fellowship with dinner included. Please come check it out. So let's be honest with ourselves. That's the theme of this week's Rabbi Ian 3. So much of the Torah, so many of its commandments refer to honesty, integrity, uprightness. And in the oral law and the Talmud, much discussion about the how awful and how abominable all forms of falsehood and deception are, except in certain cases to save a life or whatever, but I'm not getting into that. In general, in our day-to-day life, in our business life, honesty, integrity, truth, and uprightness with ourselves too. You know, the beginning of the Torah portion, Shoftim, it's halfway through the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, and the first several verses are very famous. It's the commandment to establish a system of law and justice in the land of Israel. Courts, judges, and officers will you appoint in all your gates. And then the simple meaning of the following verses talks about the qualifications for judges and for appointing judges. You shall not pervert judgment, lo sata mishpat. And it mentions you shall not accept a bribe, because a bribe, a shochad ya'aver einei chachamim, a bribe will blind the eyes of the wise and make just words crooked. And then a famous verse, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, righteousness, or justice, both are good translations. You shall pursue, so you live long in the land that God is taking you into. Justice, a court system, objectivity in judging. Don't take a bribe, judges, because a bribe will even pervert the eyes of the wise, not just inherently crooked people. A wise, righteous person can be swayed, their judgment swayed by a bribe. So you say, Rabbi E, I'm not a judge, you're not a judge. Everything in the Torah applies to every single one of us. That's why it's in the Torah. Torah means instructions. We have here a very powerful statement about the danger of taking bribes. Bribes pervert our judgment. They distort our intellectual clarity. What am I talking about? Of course, so many examples in our lives. You might be offered a job or a choice of jobs, and one job you know intellectually with your seichel, intellect, or das, another word for our deep intuitive intellect. You might know it feels wrong, not right, but there's a bribe. There's more money. There's some other pleasure associated with it, some other perk. And then you start to think, well, it's not so bad. You know, what happened? The bribe is distorting the clarity of your judgment, of your moral intuition or decision-making process. Happens all the time in relationships. A relationship we know is not good for us, but there's some perk there, and it's not so bad. It's very dangerous. A bribe blinds the eyes of the blind, and it comes with our relationship to God, with the Torah. I might convince myself some commandments not so important because it doesn't feel good to do, or because it means giving up something that's pleasurable. That's not being honest with ourselves. A bribe will distort the eyes of the blind. We have to fight falsehood in ourselves as much as in the world and strive for honesty, objectivity, truthfulness in our decisions. Have a wonderful Shabbos.